I knew what to do with financial accounting, but I didn't understand why I was doing it. So when it came to studying for FAR and even taking my accounting classes at college, I was basically learning the why I was doing things for like my job as a controller before I stopped working.
Hey, Jessica, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, Rosey?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for being on my podcast today. So I met Jessica at AICPA Global Women Leadership Summit 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Wow, time flies. And I'm so excited to have her on my podcast today. Jessica is a relationship manager at LLI Advisory Group. So Jessica, before we start diving into your CPA journey, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yes. As you mentioned, my name is Jessica Simmons. I'm a CPA. I currently work with LLI Advisory Group. It's based out of New Jersey. They focus on dental practices. I am the relationship manager there, and I am transitioning into the tax department. So I'm looking forward to that. I am a wife, a mother of two. My daughter is 16. My son will be 13 next month. So I am officially going to have two teenagers on my hands. But hey, I am full of life. I love numbers, which is why I'm a CPA. And hey, I'm just happy to be here and share with you. Yes, and it has been 2 years. I'm looking forward to speaking with you, Rosey.
Yeah, so Jessica doesn't have a traditional path to be a CPA. So I'm so excited to dive in more details about that. So Jessica, you had your first kid at a very young age.
Yes.
And then you came back and then get the accounting degree about, I would say, almost 4 years ago, 3 years and 8 months ago.
A little bit, yes. So my educational background is a little bit of just all over the place. So I technically graduated high school early and went off to college. Loved it, enjoyed myself being a newfound adult, stepping away from my parents' house, living on my own. But I had my daughter at 20, and with that, I dropped out of college. Life started happening, made ends meet. I was a server and a bartender for a lot of my time after I had my daughter. Then I had my son basically when I was 23. And that's when my husband and I then got married after we had our son. And I went to my cousin's wedding in Houston, November of 2017, and was just in awe by everything at her wedding. It seemed like something you would see on TV. And I looked at my uncle and I was like, how in the world did you afford this extravagant wedding? And he told me that he was a CPA and that he managed his own stocks. And I'm like, okay, CPA, let me look into that. So of course, when we were, flying back home, I'm looking on my phone. I'm like, what is a CPA? What's all that about? And it's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm good with math. I think I can make this work. So I started having conversations with my husband, and it's like, dude, can I quit working to go back to school? And of course, like most husbands, he was like, yes, let's do it. And I'm like, no, babe, I need you to be like for real and serious about this. Can we afford me not working anymore and you maintaining everything while I go back to school? And when we looked over the numbers, he was like, yes, we can make it happen. Anything that you want to do, let's go ahead and do it. And so January 2018, I became a CPA, or I started going back to school, So I went back and received my associate's degree, transferred to a 4-year university, got my bachelor's degree, and then also got my master's degree. And so while I was working on my master's, because I wanted to like literally get everything done with, I had already passed 3 of my CPA exams before I walked. And so luckily enough, that summer after graduation, I only had 1 more exam to do, knocked that out. And then I was able to be licensed in December of 2022. So 2022 was a big year for me. I received my master's in May and then my license for Illinois in December. So I was extremely happy. But yeah, I knocked everything out I had a great support team. But yeah, that's my background on education and getting my CPA license.
Wow, Jessica, you like a superwoman. So walking, go back to 2018, it means your daughter was about 10 years old and your son about 7. I mean,
My
about 3.
son was, he was 5, so he was just in school at that point. Because that's really what made me kind of feel comfortable enough to do it, because I knew at that point both of my kids were in school. I didn't necessarily have to figure out how to how to juggle a little toddler and a rigorous, course load. Because a lot of times I had to get permission from the advisors to take the amount of classes that I was taking because of the credit hours. I think they only typically allow like 12, and sometimes I was doing 15 in this semester, or even my summer, it was a full load. So it's just like, I want to get it done. I want to get it over with. So yes, both of my kids were in school at that point. My son, he was in kindergarten by then.
Wow. I'm just curious because I'm having a little baby now, and whenever he's at home I'm just like running around like crazy and no time to relax or to rest at all until he falls asleep. And the moment he falls asleep, I will like wash palms and then prepare for the next day, and then by the time I go to bed it's like I'm so exhausted. So I'm just curious how you juggle school and then 2 kids, even they went to school at that time, but the moment they back home you were still very busy and also like taking care of the family, the household and everything. How could you do that?
Girl, you get me. Yes, so it was a lot, but luckily enough, my husband is amazing. So he made sure a lot of that was easy for me. I didn't have any real responsibilities with the kids in the morning. He was the one waking them up every morning, making sure that they were ready for school. Because a lot of times I was up till midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. So he would just allow me to sleep for as long as I could sleep in the morning and make sure that they were ready to go and out the door. But even with that, like there were times where my daughter, luckily enough, because she is the older one, where it's like, okay, I have to do this. Please read this textbook to me. Read it out loud, or here's my study guide. Ask me these questions. If I don't say this exact answer, let me know, because then I don't have it right. So like my daughter became my study partner, which was really awesome. Excuse me. She allowed me to definitely study a lot. So it was a support team, but even at that, like I was juggling a lot. So like it was nonstop. And in the heart of all that, COVID happened. So when COVID was a complete, United States shutdown, I was doing an internship. I had my coursework as well. And I had to actually reach out to the partner in charge for my internship. And I had to like put my tail in between my legs and kind of humble myself. And I almost really wanted to cry about it, because it's just like, I'm not a quitter, but it's like, I cannot juggle all this. I said, this is an internship. It's not fair for you guys. But in all honesty, I know that your clients are going to be on the back burner for me. It's not a priority for me, because right now it's my daughter's education and then it's my son's education. And during COVID, they were at 2 different schools. My daughter had just switched over to middle school and my son was still in elementary school. So they had 2 different schedules. 2 different, like my daughter's bouncing around for a different teacher every single subject. Luckily enough, my son had 1 teacher. So trying to micromanage them and making sure that they're not getting lost in Google or on YouTube when they're supposed to be listening to their teachers. And then also my schoolwork is just like, I have to step back and be true and honest with myself on what I can handle, which was not my kids' schooling and my schooling and work. So luckily enough, it was an internship and I could easily back out of it. Like I said, it definitely humbled me, taught me a lot of understanding what my boundaries and my limitations were, because at the end of the day, my kids' education is more important than anything else. And I would not change those decisions that I made, but it was a lot. But luckily enough, my husband, both of my parents are here in town. My husband's parents are here in town. When I was first going to school and college, my little sister was still in town. So I utilized her a lot. I like to think that I was her, birth control for the moment, because she definitely didn't have kids while she was in high school or college, but she was like, this is not easy to do and to juggle. I'm going to make sure that I'm well established and have my career before I have kids. So I had a lot of support and it made it really nice.
That's amazing how you could handle all of that. And it's funny your sister brought up that, hey, make sure that she has all career established before she has kids. So I just want to share her perspective because that's what I'm doing right now. But the funny thing is that when I have career established and then ready to have the baby, as I shared with you before we record, we are old. We are tired. We're exhausted. We don't have energy for the baby. And we're like, we don't know when is a good time for the baby. We have, when we were young, we would not have enough financial support, and we worried that baby may not get the best of everything. But now, when we feel like, okay, we were ready and we're getting old, and we're like, oh, for audience who listening to this, I said, oh, but not that old. I'm early 30s. But it's still exhausting. Like I normally have a lot of energy, but with a baby, I always tell my husband that, oh my God, I love my baby so much, but it is so exhausting.
You're not wrong. When you have a newborn, it is a lot because you're trying to figure out how to get things done because you realize you can't get anything done when your baby's awake. So then you only have when the baby's sleeping. And then it's like, okay, well, how do you literally throw in everything during the few hours that your baby's sleeping? And then it's like, okay, well, I also need a rest. So how do you sit there and juggle everything? So it does get a little bit better, Rosey. I promise you. When they get older and they can sleep 8 hours, 8 hours, it gets a lot better. But then you have to sit there and replace, a newborn schedule with an active kid schedule. So you never know like what their interests are going to be, if they want to do things, or you never know. So like you change one thing out for something else. So it's a never revolving door, and you have to kind of learn how to be basically fluid with it all. Just go with the flow. And that's the best way that I can really say with it, because you can never honestly, truly plan or prepare enough for a child, because
nope.
I mean, just like we are nothing like our parents. Granted, we become more and more like our parents after we have our own kids, but we're nothing like our parents. So when we were throwing curveballs for them, our kids are going to throw curveballs for us. And even if you have all of your ducks in a row, your kid's going to come through and be like, no, that doesn't work for me. Let's do something different. And then you just got to go with it.
Exactly. I absolutely agree with you about that. You mentioned that you had an internship and then you back it out. And so after you graduate and then you pass 3 sections of the CPA exam, at the moment you graduate, you got a full-time job after that?
Oh, yes. So I luckily enough did technically two different internships during my graduate degree. And the one that I stepped away from, luckily enough, they've extended my internship. So it started off with an audit internship in the summer, and they really liked the work that I did, and they kept me for the fall for audit. And then in January, they moved me to the tax department. And I was really helping accounting services because, of course, there's not real tax work to do in January. And then come February is when I transitioned to like fully being a tax intern. And then that's when I had to step away before, I think, the end of February is when I stepped away from that one. And so luckily enough, it was like I had a little bit of exposure to tax. And it was like, I think I like tax more than audit because I'm too precise on numbers. I don't want to get down to the nitty gritty on things. So it's like, I need to find another internship. And I was actually going to graduate a little bit early. And because of that, I saw a new internship coming through because, mind you, I was the graduate assistant. So I was the one letting all the students know of internships, letting them know about what, software's out there to practice and study for the CPA exam. So I was knowledgeable about a lot of things before other students were at the campus that I went to. And so I knew an intern was coming through, and it was like, okay, well, I talked to my advisor. And I was like, well, if I want to do this internship, what should I do? And we basically spread out a couple of my classes to allow me to still be considered a student come the springtime. And I did one more internship for tax. And I was like, okay, I do like tax. So once I actually sat and passed my last exam, that's when I reached out to my wonderful network that I had, which was a gentleman when I was a financial advisor. And he helped me get a job with a local firm here. And that actually didn't work out that well, but that owner actually gave me some really great advice. He goes, Jessica, you're a really amazing person, but with your schedule, you need remote work. And I'm just like, I don't know if I want to be a remote employee because mind you, I was a server and a bartender. So I'm so used to connecting with people and being in people's face. I was just like, I don't know if I can be by myself at home. And luckily enough, I took his advice. I put out I updated my resume, started looking for opportunities to have remote work. And I landed my first remote position with a firm based out of Indiana and loved it. And I was just like, now it's just like, you can't convince me to go work in an office now. I love remote work. I'll go in to visit for like a couple of days, but it's like, I need to be at home and have that flexibility of working whatever hours that I want to work, being available to go all in when it's convenient. You can throw a load of laundry in, or if I need to step away and drive my son to basketball practice, it's not frowned upon because I'm at home anyway. So like I can step away for that one-off task and then come back and be completely involved in it. Or if something is, taking up my schedule, I can step away for a few hours and then have the ability to get back on and work later on in the evening without, the constraints of being in an office. So
I love it. Two things that you mentioned about that I want to dive in a little bit more details. First, it is CPA exams, and the second one, it is working remotely. These two topics are really interesting for me. So for CPA exams, you passed 3 sections while you were in college, and then you passed the last section after that. Based on your experience with a very crazy busy schedule with kids running around and take care of the house and being a wife, everything like that, can you share some tips and advice for people who are studying for the CPA exam right now? Like which sections should they take first, and how can they nail the 4 sections for the CPA exam?
Yes. So in full disclosure, I passed 3 of my exams on the first try. One of them I did not. So I did FAR first, and FAR was to me the easiest exam because I did not mention this, but after my husband and I were married, we moved down to Alabama. I'm originally from Springfield, Illinois. We were there for a year and a half. And when we came back to Springfield, Illinois, because I was missing my parents, I was able to get my first salary job. And I honestly feel like it was by the grace of God that I received this job because I was a controller for a local fitness facility. And there's 3 different locations here. I had QuickBooks experience, but not on the scale for what this business was doing. They saw something in me and gave me a shot. So I knew what to do with financial accounting, but I didn't understand why I was doing it. So when it came to studying for FAR and even taking my accounting classes at college, I was basically learning the why I was doing things for like my job as a controller before I stopped working. And so all of that came easy to me because I was already very familiar with the bookkeeping side of managing a business and all of that stuff. I understood that. That was the easiest exam for me. Audit was the second exam that I took, and that is the one that I needed to take 3 times. The first time that I sat for it and passed it, I sat for it, I received a 71. Was so upsetting. And then the second time I received a 73 and I literally bawled my eyes out. So I was like, I'm so close. This is not fair. And then of course, the third time I passed it. But for me, it was very obvious that because I struggled with audit in college for my undergrad and graduate, it made sense that I struggled with that exam. And I struggled with audit because a lot of times I don't take the time to read every single word through. And I will do a lot of speed reading because I do enjoy reading, and mainly probably because I don't know, my situation, me having kids, I have to look at things quickly and be able to come to decisions quickly. So I know that I would read the question and I would scan the answers and I would just pick one. And a lot of times the answer that I was picking was the one that had always or never. And we know with audit, you don't use that type of verbiage with audit. It's never, never, and it's never always. So a lot of times that was what was tricking me up. So I had to condition myself time and time again to slow down and take my time to read everything to make sure that I was clicking the best answer. With regulations, and I do know the exams changed, I was able to get my CPA license right before they changed how the exams were laid out. So I did have FAR, Reg, Audit, and oh my gosh, what is the last one? Now I'm drawing a blank. I think I said Reg, so it must be the business one. But like I was able to pass all of those pretty simple. With regulations that deals with tax, the best advice that I received is because I was studying for this during my tax internship. They told me that I could not consider any of the things that I'm doing in my internship. All of the information that I'd be tested on would be basically old information. And so once I had that understanding that, okay, all of the current tax stuff that I'm using for tax preparation is irrelevant for my CPA exam. I just need to retain the information that's in the study prep stuff because that is what is going to be on the CPA exam. So, you know, your tax rates, different little ways that you handle and settle different things for taxes. That's what I needed to focus on and not just be like, oh, well, I know that the tax rate now is X, Y, and Z. That didn't matter for the CPA exam. So you have to be able to pull yourself and be mindful, okay, this is what I'm studying and this is what I'm doing in reality. And they're two different things. So as long as you have those things underneath, you're great. And I will share the best advice that I received was from my uncle, who's an architect. And with that, you do have to have a license to be an architect as well as, you know, a CPA. And he told me, he goes, Jessica, it does not matter how many times you have to take an exam. At the end of the day, no employer is going to ask you how many times did you have to take any of the parts of the exam. They only care about if you passed it. So, you know, I just want to make sure that your listeners know that, yes, a lot of people will sit there and brag and post that they've passed, you know, their exams on the first try. And that's great. You know, it feels great when you do it, but there's nothing wrong when you need to sit and study for audit 3 times like I did, or even more than that. Just don't be discouraged and keep giving your best effort for it, because at the end of the day, nobody cares how long it took you to pass the exams. They just care that you did it.
That's so true. Oh my God. They don't care what score you got as well. You can get 75 or 99. At the end of the day, you have 3 letters CPA after your name.
Yes.
That's just so funny. But it's funny that it took me 3 times as well to pass audit, because I had the same issue about reading the questions, and I hate it so much when they ask the most likely. I was like, ooh. And then I was like, I was able to eliminate 2 answers easily. 50-50. You can eliminate 2 answers right away. But the other 2, so close. And I was like, oh, I hate this. So I think the first time I took audit, I got 73. And or 74, I remember exactly now, it's a while ago, but super close to 75. I was like, just 2 more points. I just need to study a little bit early, not that much. Guess what? The second time I got about mid-60. I was like, oh my God. I thought I just missed only 2 points. What's going on? So the third time, I studied everything. I didn't skip one thing. And at the end, I got audit score is the highest score in all 4 sections, because I was like, I cannot fail this section, because I was like, I passed that audit in the last week of the 18-month window back to my time. So I was like, oh, I'm all done. I never want to take these sections again to the rest of my life.
It's funny that you said that, because I had a professor that told us that the CPA actually stood for can't pass again, because he goes, it doesn't matter what CPA you talk to. if you go give them that test right now, they won't be able to pass it. Not like they did when they, of course, first passed it. But it's crazy that you say that because, yes, when I was doing audit, so I worked it out with my capstone professor because at my campus, we were supposed to write like a 30-page paper to graduate with your master's. And I did not want to write this research paper at all. So I looked at my professor and I was like, hey, we're very big on CPA and telling people that we're preparing our students for this. Can I just sit for the CPA exam? And at this point, like I had sat for audit and I was waiting to get my grade back. And he was like, well, since you already sat for 2 of them, those 2 don't count. You have to sit for another one. And I was like, okay, I can handle that. And that's when I realized that I failed audit, not once, but twice. So in the midst of my last semester, I sat for audit 2 more times. And then I had to crank out the regulations exam. And I didn't get my grade. I didn't know that I passed it until 2 days before our graduation ceremony. So like I literally was like basically sick. My husband was like, you passed, it's gonna be great. And I'm like, no, I failed it. I know I did. And it's funny because like the more you talk to other people who sit for the CPA exam, when you feel confident about your grades, that's when you fail. And when you're like over here like, oh my God, I know I just did horrible, that's when you actually pass your exam. And it's just like, why?
Why? That exactly happened to me in the first time I took FAR. I passed in the first try. But when I came home, I literally cried. Literally like cry. And I was like, I studied so much for this section and I did a horrible job. And I ended up with 80 for that exam. I took audit the first try. It is a second section for this CPA exam. I came back and said, I did a good job. No way I can fail this exam. And I was so excited when they scored it. I was like, come on. And I was like, oh my God. I failed it.
Yes, most definitely. It's so funny. But and one more thing that I will say as far as like studying, because FAR is so large, the best advice that I had from a fellow student was one that understood my study habits. So like I love making notes, doing note cards, all of that to fully understand something. And I started doing that with FAR. And I had like the 100-pack note cards, and I don't think I was even like a third way through the FAR section, and I had already used up all of those note cards. And I found myself getting really burnt out very easily on. And my best friend was like, hey, you can't treat FAR like you do class. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She goes, there's just too much in FAR. And she recommended that I go through and I basically do like the practice tests and assessments that they had for FAR and just figure out what I don't know. And then that's where I study for FAR, is what I don't know, because there's no reason on spending a lot of time on things that I already had an understanding of. And mind you, like I said, I was a controller before, so I had a little bit more of a basic understanding on FAR than other people who had no work experience whatsoever with it. So then I went that approach, and it was like, oh, well, I can easily study for FAR this way because I fully know this section. I know the balance sheet. I know this. I know that. What don't I know? Okay, well, let's work on depreciation because I don't fully know that. And I'll figure out how to calculate and how this actually relates to everything else. And that's how I moved through FAR. So if anybody's studying for FAR, it is okay to not treat it like an actual class because there's so much information in there. And we don't want you to be overwhelmed and burnt out before you can even sit for the exam. Because I cried halfway through the FAR exam because I'm like, oh, this is a lot harder than what I thought it was going to be. And then I looked at the time and it's like, oh my God, I don't have time to cry. I gotta do it. And that's what I just knew I failed that exam. And I was just like, oh, I passed. I got this.
I know.